students, welcome to my YouTube channel PCM Academy and myself Prasenjit Molli, MS in Physics. And you know we are in a lecture series for JEE Main, NEET and JEE Advanced also. And we have already discussed two topics, okay, two chapters you can say. One is Newton's law and another is friction. And now I am going to discuss a new chapter, that is circular motion. And in unit 1 or in unit 2 you can say, in unit 1 we have discussed about unit dimension etc. analysis, but in unit 2 we have first encountered about motion, and there we have discussed about, you know what, one dimensional motion. We have already discussed about one dimensional motion, okay, and then we have discussed about two dimensional motion. This is first one dimensional motion, then we have discussed about two dimensional motion. And I think you have remembered that in two dimensional motion we have discussed a very special kind of motion, that is projectile motion. And this projectile motion is a very special kind of two dimensional motion. This projectile motion is actually a very special kind of two dimensional motion. Why? Because though the motion is two dimensional, but its acceleration is always one dimensional. If you talk about its acceleration, then its acceleration will be one dimensional. Acceleration is one dimensional, and that is obviously gravitational acceleration g. You know, if we draw the projectile motion like this, okay, if this is our y-axis and this is our x-axis parabola like this, then the gravitational acceleration was acting always downward direction. So this is a very interesting thing, that though the motion is two dimensional, but its acceleration is one dimensional. But here in the case of circular motion is also a two dimensional motion, but here for acceleration there is also two components. Acceleration also have two components. One is radial acceleration, another is transverse acceleration in plane polar coordinate system. If you talk about in xy plane, then of course one is x and another is y. So this is also a very special kind of two-dimensional motion, that is circular motion. At least a special kind of curve motion you can say. There is a curve is circle. Here the curve was parabola. Sometimes we will study in gravitation basically the elliptical motion also, the motion of planet, you know. So we will discuss this thing later on. But here we have to study about circular motion. And for any kinds of motion, you know, what is the goal of us? Why we just want to study of any kinds of motion? To study the particle, the state of the particle. We want to basically study about the state of the particle. What is the initial state of the particle and what will be the state of the particle after some later time t. So in mechanics always, if you know any particle, what is the position of the particle at t is equal to 0, okay, then by using some law you can say that what will be the position of the particle at a later time t is equal to t. If you know how the motion of the particle is evaluated through which law, if you know the law, you can tell what is the position, what is the corresponding physical quantity, involving with motion, you know. One is position, another is displacement, you can say velocity, acceleration, etc. These all are actually collectively they decide and they express the what is the state of the particle. Okay, so first we have to define some variables, some dynamical variable you can say. And in one dimensional motion there was straight line motion, in two dimensional motion also, in planar motion. So we have defined something, some variables like displacement, like velocity, acceleration, etc. Similarly here also we will define some angular variables here, okay. So whenever you want to study any type kinds of motion, you have to define some quantity, some dynamical variable, okay. And this dynamical variable, you know, this dynamical variable was for one dimensional motion. The dynamic variables was what? Position, velocity, acceleration, this kind of thing. and you can say displacement also. Displacement, we have studied this thing, okay, displacement. But here what we will try to find out, here basically we will try to find out this angular variable, these variables, but here angular variables. Here we will call this as angular variables because involved with angle, some angle, because the particle is rotating. When the particle will be rotating along a circle, then obviously there will be something called angular variables. There will be something called angular variables. And instead of displacement, velocity, acceleration, we will discuss about angular displacement, angular velocity, angular acceleration, etc. Okay, so this is the introduction class of circular motion. This is a very special type of car motion, the circular motion, which is nothing but a two-dimensional motion. But now in the next class, we will discuss about what are the angular variables and how we can define the angular variables and how the angular variables will vary, what will be the force involving here, all things, the dynamics of circular motion, all we will study in the next class. Okay, so thank you.